Hey, howdy, and a big welcome back to Clemhawks, folks. I'm Yak for the first time in a long while here as Clem's kind of carried us through the beginning of 2023. And of course, for the first time this year as well, Gillies TV joining us here on the channel as well. My friend, you've been patiently waiting to get back into this because obviously there's one big bit of news that matters to you. And that is, of course, what we're going to talk about today, the Toronto Blue Jays and what they've done with their arbitration filings, and I've got details on that in a moment. But before we get there, friends, if you're new to the channel, I want you to consider hitting that subscribe button here on Clemhawks. Simply put, we're trying to hit that 4,000 subscriber mark now, 77 subscribers away, so not that far at all. And if you'd be so kind to consider hitting that, that would be greatly appreciated. Gillies TV, I want to waste no more time other than to tell you it's glad to have you back on the channel here today because the Blue Jays, they made some moves yesterday.
Well, first and foremost, I'm glad to be back too. Uh, got off that holiday high from Christmas, with all the Blue Jays news, the Blue Jays needed to reach a deal with a bunch of their arbitration players by 10 p.m. Mountain Time last night. Most did, Vladdy coming to the wire, but Bo Bichette didn't. But let's start with the signings where they're bringing back the guys they wanted. One name I'll get to him. It's kind of like why we've seen him struggle. But with Kevin Biggio, Adam Simber, Santiago Espinal, Vladdy, of course, coming back, that was the top name to get. Danny Jansen, you needed to re-sign with that trade of Moreno. Tim Meza, pretty much one of the only lefties in your bullpen who's been a solid stud for you over the past few years. Jordan Romano, he's not going anywhere. He's Canadian. He's going to want to stay with the Blue Jays. That's great to see. Trevor Richards is kind of on the 50-50 side for me. And then, of course, newly acquired Dalton Varso. The one that got me is Trent Thornton.
Mm.
We've seen this kid struggle and struggle in the MLB. He's had a few good outings here and there, but it's not consistent. I'm wondering why they did this. Maybe he is the sixth starting pitcher where if a pitcher goes down or not, of course. And one contract I saw was Espinal's. 2.1 million for next year. I don't know if he just loves the city of Toronto or what's going on, but I'm pretty sure he could have got more going to arbitration. But who knows?
Well, and that's maybe to the point, maybe the Blue Jays looking to get some business done here during the arbitration hearings simply because they might not be done, right? We've heard rumblings, and this is something that I'm sure you, just as I, have followed. Just because we're not posting here on Clem Hawks and talking to everybody every day about the MLB stuff like Clem has been, doesn't mean we're not following along. And what you've been kind of roped into believing, if you're a Blue Jays fan, from whether it be the fan sites, whether it be the media, is there might still be a move in the woodwork for the Blue Jays. And I think, too, part of that might have been that Brandon Belt signing there a couple of days ago. So, I mean, realistically, too, I think if this Blue Jays team is, as a team, players, staff, coaches, and management, committed to winning a championship in Toronto in this window we've got going. Obviously, this year is another giddy up, let's go kind of year for the Blue Jays. I think there might be something to be said for the players knew what they were doing come arbitration time, and it was just about finding that perfect middle ground before the deadline. I mean, I guess the other question is you mentioned a bunch of players, but there is one guy on the outs still with the Blue Jays, and we are headed to arbitration with. So maybe that one kind of too determines what happens here for the Blue Jays. If you've got the details on that.
Well, we'll start with you brought up the trade. There's probably going to be a couple more either signings or trades. They do need to find a left-handed starting pitcher for sure. I don't think Kikuchi's doing it for them. And probably another left-handed reliever with Meza and Kikuchi back in the bullpen. Now, the name left off this is Bo Bichette. And what I've been reading, hearing from sports analysts, even sports on TV, Bichette's at the $7.5 million mark. The Jays are at 5, and they just couldn't reach a deal.
So right, you're talking about a $2.5 million gap, and what actually surprises me is I think Vladdy was in the $14 million mark there around for arbitration. Bo, after a terrible start to the year, comes up and starts absolutely tearing it up. I think it was September was the joke we had all September long, where like he was the Blue Jays offense for September from more than half the games, I'd say. But the benefit there is, thankfully, his arbitration number, no matter how high it is, right? Obviously, if he settles at 7.5 and that's what he's awarded, that's still not a number that the Blue Jays can't go out and do something with, right? There's still more moves to be made, but I think obviously with the Blue Jays finding themselves in a $2.5 million gap, that might tell you what the Blue Jays are looking to do with that extra salary available if they can get Bo Bichette in arbitration at 5 million. I guess that's what you said, right? A lefty, lefty, and away you go. And that's kind of the question now. If you had to pick one, so say we lose that 2.5 million. If you had to pick one, which are you more concerned for the Blue Jays to get at this point? A left-handed reliever or a left-handed starting pitcher?
I'd probably go a left-handed reliever. We have guys who can be. We got one of the better rotations in the MLB. You're talking Manoa. You're talking Gosman. You're talking Barrios. Those three right there can hold up in the AL East. And MLB came out with their top teams for this year. Blue Jays are number 3. So there's no doubt about the talent we have on our starting rotation
That's just it.
and whatnot. But I believe it's a left-handed reliever because Mays is going to get tired out there. Kikuchi's too inconsistent. Don't get me wrong; he's a good pitcher, but when he gets lit up, he starts to fall apart and everything goes south. Where with Mesa, it is you're getting in and out with him all the time. And going to talk about Bo Bichette for a minute. I can see why the Jays are at that 5 million mark. One source of a sore spot for Bichette is all those errors at shortstop. Now, do they maybe try him at second base, move Espinal to shortstop, where Espinal has played before? And like you said, the slow start last year, he wound up with 24 home runs and 93 RBIs last
That's
season
just it. September
and hit
was unreal.
290,
Yeah.
even though in April and May, he was nowhere near those numbers and everyone was panicking. So for the Jays to be at 5 million, he's no Vladdy. Vladdy's going to give you that pop of the bat. They're different players, but I can see why Bo wants the 7.5. And if you look at the postseason, that's where his numbers drop off, which could hurt his value. And who knows? We'll go from there.
So that's where we as Blue Jays fans find ourselves, right? Is it's a whole bunch of questions, just kind of how do the Blue Jays kind of tidy up this offseason? I think to you and me, it's been a very successful offseason, one that we're not very used to as Blue Jays fans. You actually sell off some very integral players to your lineup and somehow get better. That's kind of a weird situation for us as Blue Jays fans because we're not used to that. But as it is right now, as you said, there's two things that you could use, and I guess it all depends to your first point about Trent Thornton and what his usage is going to be this season. I think, like you said, leaning towards a reliever first, probably the right move, and then secondary to that, a left-handed starter probably allows you to move Trent Thornton either to DFA status or to the minors, depending what you're doing here. That's pretty much going to wrap us up for us, I think. I don't know if
No,
oh, you got
one
something else.
name we forgot,
Oh,
newly signed Chris Bassett.
ah, Christmas
That
set,
just
yes.
makes our rotation that much better. And I don't think Ryu's coming back. So yeah, you could find a lefty starter, but it's no need with those 4 guys there. You could throw in a rookie coming up in that 5th spot, get him playing time. And you said we're not used to this. We sold off Moreno, Hernandez, Lourdes Gurriel. One thing that popped up after that Gurriel trade was what is going to be the attitude in that clubhouse game day? Because those 2 guys were the fun guys. Moreno was even getting involved. Yes, we still got Springer. We still have Vladdy. But what is going to be the mindset in that clubhouse? Are you going to have fun, or is it going to be like the Yankees where it's all serious?
Well, and
They
that,
don't.
I would say I think you bring in a guy like Kevin Kiermaier, who love or hate the Tampa Bay Rays, have been to the postseason more times than we Blue Jays fans can count over the past 10 years, mostly at our expense every single time. However, you look at it right for the Blue Jays, you add a veteran leader like Bassett, you add a veteran leader like Kiermaier. I don't think it's going to take away the fun factor. I think it's going to just bring a level of accountability within that clubhouse where both rookies, mid-tier players, and of course veterans are all kind of cohesive to try and get the job done. That's best case scenario. What we see happen, who knows?
Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully, there's more trades, like we said. Uh, get the ruling on Bo Bichette here within the next month. It should be, hopefully.
Yep, should be about January or February 13th, probably February 18th on Bo Bichette. We'll get arbitration filing dates or hearing dates here soon, I'm sure, friends. I'm Yak. He's Gillies TV. We could talk all day about the Blue Jays. We haven't had a chance to do it most of this off season so far.
Yeah.
We've been way too focused on the Oilers here behind me. But friends, you have yourself a great afternoon. Clemhawks has another video up here as well, so you'll probably already have heard from Clem before you hear from us. That's just the sequence of operations behind the scenes today. Enjoy, and if you've had a chance not yet to do so, hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one.